Sorry about 9:06. Bart and I were in the green room, and we were talking about everything going on. I'm not going to waste any time. John here, Bart there, you there, and obviously it's a discussion about what happened last night. Bart has already warned me that I'm just going to have to grab my seatbelt and just kind of, sit in the back for a little bit while Bart takes us on a bit of a drive. We do have some reffing down here we've got to get into. So I'm just going to go ahead, since we've only got you for about 24 minutes. We got you to the bottom of the hour before you get in trouble with actual real world things. I'm just going to go ahead and let you start. I'm going to take notes as you go, and then we'll address the questions that I have when you stop and become either hydrated or actually take a breath. Bart, go.
Well, to quote Nancy Pelosi, it is not a good morning. This has been a debacle from the U.S. men's national team, but I do want to just say from the start, last night in and of itself was not a terrible match from this men's national team. They played fairly well. They played, up to the level that we've seen them. They did not surpass the level that we've seen them play. They did not certainly find something within themselves to gut out even a result against Uruguay. But the real damage is the overall collective psyche and fragileness that this team came into this tournament with for some reason. A tournament that is not for the weak, mentally or physically. And you're now left with legitimate existential questions, as oftentimes you see after a failure like this, because that's the thing. This is a failure, and not making it out of the group, despite the circumstances that Greg will ultimately come to call for his defense when he is on the trial stand, presumably, hopefully last night and hopefully today. But at the end of the day, getting grouped in a tournament you host is a failure, and it's unacceptable for a program that wants to be better than where it is, and a program that wants to be some sort of a big player on the international stage. Last night, again, was not the worst performance we've seen from this men's national team. It certainly was a fairly solid one, but as always, it seems this team is unable to lift itself above more than just a collection of talented players and find itself as a formidable team that can charge through a tournament and make other teams pay for mistakes. That's just where we're at. We can talk more details, but it's frustrating to feel like we're in a Kuva moment. Not even, 6 years removed from that moment?
Mm-hmm. Soccer for USPOD's Bart Keeler hanging out with us this morning to bat leadoff after what happened last night. Jarrett has made this point about, frankly, the last two matches, that the Timothy Weah red impacted not only the match at Mercedes-Benz, but also impacted this one with his absence and forced the United States to do things and come out in an 11 that they were not familiar with, or however you want to phrase it. That the Timothy Weah knock-on effects impacted more than just the immediate that we saw at Mercedes-Benz.
Right, and I think I'll say I agree and disagree with Jarrett, but I agree on the whole that, yes, that obviously changed how you had to play this match against Uruguay. But I think it wasn't so much a lineup thing as much as it became a must-win game.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that is the main change here. It's not that you didn't have Tim Weah. It's that you then now had to win this game. a game that, again, you did not play poorly. You played Uruguay pretty well, and despite multiple just chaotic and egregiously incorrect referee decisions, you may have gotten a draw out of this game, which would have been a perfectly acceptable result in any other measure.
Mm-hmm.
But because, to Jarrett's point, of that red card that affected you within the Panama game, the circumstances of this game became different. So yes, Tim Weah's absence was felt last night. I did think Gio Reyna was fairly effective, but it does leave you with not having as many moves to play, and it did leave you with needing a result. And even the Panama result that they got, if you go out and win this game, you're still through. Panama would not have made up the goal differential had you won the game.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end of the day, you go out and you lose because this team is incapable of punching above its weight. It's incapable of rising to a level above where they're at, especially against teams that are better than them. And to Jarrett's point, when you are missing one of your locked-in starting players, it will be harder to do that.
Tom is asking the philosophical. Yeah,
it's a fair question, Tom.
Yeah,
sorry.
No,
put it on that screen.
Yeah. Tom's asking if you need to clean house at the top in addition to manager, in your opinion, or are you too close?
The answer is no, because one, you're talking about positions in president and CEO that, while the most important thing is the U.S. men's and women's national teams coaching and success, that's not the only thing that they're responsible for. Now, Matt Crocker needs to be part of this evaluation. Granted, he just brought in arguably the best women's coach available. So we do have to at least, I think, give him another chance to get it right on the men's side. You do need to have Cindy and JT going to, whomever Daddy Moneybags is, Daddy Warbucks, to ask for the buyout money now. I mean, we are at that. We need some boosters, got to buy out Jimbo's contract here. And
you had to bring up Jimbo, didn't you?
Well,
mm-hmm.
He's supposedly an offensive genius, and that's what Greg wanted us to be. But look, you do need to put pressure on all of them. I think that's fair. I think pressure to change things is fair. But the reality is they don't control a lot of the things that you think they control, but they also control a lot of things that you don't realize they control. And they're also beholden to, similar to Don Garber as MLS commissioner, they are beholden to the stakeholders that they serve. And I don't think people also realize that this is not just Cindy and JT and even Matt to an extent going out and do what they please. They are ultimately at the service of the stakeholders, which are the local state soccer associations and all those people that make that up.
Jarrett's
but
now.
A manager change needs to happen.
Right.
That is fair.
Jarrett is now in, and Jarrett, I led off after Bart's opening statement with your discussion about the knock-on effects with Timothy Weah and how that impacted you not only once but twice. What is on your mind, top of mind this morning, as Bart is now in for bat and leadoff this morning for obvious reasons?
It's like, I don't know what you do now. I know we talked about, moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do that? Like, does U.S. soccer actually do that? I think you have to. You can't get grouped in a tournament on your home soil.
In a group that you should have handled better than you did, even if the Weah knock-on effects are discussed as we have already.
And you have to discuss them, and that's the thing is, like, you can discuss them,
mm-hmm.
while also acknowledging that there were other mistakes made.
Yeah,
there were mistakes made in that game. Like, you go up 1-0, up down a man, and you immediately give up a goal. And then you
Jarrett, my question to you, if I can jump in, is because we just dealt with something. I feel like we're getting into the Berhalter discussion. It's just we're launching into it, so I'm sorry. We dealt with this here locally, I think, with the Pineda situation, where no one. Now, granted, I don't think Greg Berhalter is the nicest person, and certainly not as generous and actually good as Gonzalo Pineda is. No offense to Greg, but I think we all agree that Gonzalo is an incredible human.
Gonzalo salt to the earth, dude.
And it seemed very much like the players enjoyed Gonzalo, respected Gonzalo as a person. And
we have that with, from what I understand, the post-match that we heard from Matt Turner and others last night.
These players respect Greg. They like playing for Greg. But, Jarrett, my question is, at some point, liking the coach and a coach who's building a good culture, if you want to call it that, which that's even debatable at this point, if it's not resulting in wins, if it's not a culture of what I felt the problem with Atlanta United was, and what I think the problem is with this men's national team, is a culture of accountability and a culture of responsibility. At some point, it becomes less on the players, and you have to look at the person who's leading the whole charge.
No, I agree. I'm personally in the camp that I think you have to make a move.
Yeah.
I think you have to make a change. Really lowers kick up. Sure, why not? It's just that kind of day. I think you're in a category to make a change. Because you can't have this failure. And also, I think if you do it now, you give yourself plenty of time going into the World Cup. But if you wait, you get into a situation where you don't have as much time. Then it becomes a game of like bantering around names. I'll give you one name that we talked about for Atlanta that I would not be opposed to seeing for the U.S. national team, just for the fact that he might scare the living hell out of them and might scare the living hell out of everybody, is Giovanni Savarese.
Yeah.
Took Portland to 2 MLS Cups. Won championships with the Cosmos back in the day. Maybe a bit more pragmatic tactically, but
I think we need that, Jarrett. I think we need more of a pragmatic tactician.
I think you need balls too, man. And I don't. There are times there are times with this group I feel like you don't have that, Bart. Last night necessarily wasn't that one of those times. I thought they threw punch. I was impressed with the way they threw punches with Uruguay. And we're having a different conversation. If Tim Weah doesn't punch somebody in the back of the head and you don't drop points and you straight up lose to Panama, if you do your job and you beat Panama, and then as we talked about before the tournament, you beat the first two teams, Uruguay doesn't matter, and you can judge it on its own merits. I think it was your post I saw last night, Bart. It was like, in a different world, like in a friendly environment, we're looking at this Uruguay game very differently. But because of the circumstances, wasn't good enough. And you were not putting the ball in the back of the net last night. And some of that I credit to Uruguay, because they're ballsy, they're gutsy, they are relentless defensively. I was really impressed with Uruguay. I told Jason last night, I want to see them play Brazil, because I want to see an Uruguayan beat a Brazilian to death with another Brazilian, because I think they might do that. The way they'll throw themselves in front of every single half attempt on goal. I think you brought up plenty of fight last night. Won't even get into the reffing down here aspect of it.
We're getting that's next. That's
fine, and that's fine. But I think it's a large. That's a fine. That we'll get into it, because it's kind of funny on some of it, and I do value Bart's opinion on a lot of it. But yeah, man, it's in a different world. It's a different conversation with how you approached Uruguay. I thought you put up a pretty damn good fight. The goal.
Well, and that's where the problem in live, Jarrett, is because you lost to Panama.
I agreed 100%.
I mean,
no, I agree with you 100%. It's the whole fulcrum for me is going to come back to Weah being dumb and selfish for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And because then you're in a situation where you had to be perfect against Panama, and you were not perfect against Panama. And I don't care if Bolivia took a 1-1 draw against Panama in the middle of that game. I don't care. Did you really expect Panama to drop points to Bolivia? Like, yeah, it'd be hilarious. It'd be great if you could have backdoored in. But last night was always a game for me. You needed to go beat Uruguay. You put yourself in a bad situation. You cannot rely on others in that situation. You needed to go beat Uruguay. I thought you did everything but put the ball in the back of the net. You just didn't have the finishing. You didn't have somebody to take advantage of the moment, and you didn't have Uruguay slip up like you needed them to. And yeah, when you're in a bad situation and you need things to go your way, when they don't, it gets magnified, man. But you got enough time now, and after this, you have all the reason and the runway in the world to go look at making a change for the U.S. national team. I think you do that.
All right, Bart, here we go. Reffing down here.
Or lack of reffing down here.
That is also true.
Reffing was a theoretical construct.
Before we get into this, I think we all agree the reffing. I'm not absolving what happened because of the refereeing.
No.
I do want to say that this is one of the few times I have actually seen refereeing actually impact a game.
Yeah.
Because he was just bad.
Yeah. And what we're doing this on purpose. It is a separate issue that we're putting to the side. It's the game element we wanted to have as one aspect of this.
Yeah, it's not why the U.S. got eliminated.
No.
The U.S. dug their own grave.
Yeah, U.S. did their own ish.
This is a separate, amazing conversation because this was like there were moments watching this that I was in awe.
Yep.
Some of the decisions that were made.
And it's not a good awe. Kevin Ortega of Peru was the man in the middle. It was mainly a Peruvian crew last night. And it was his first time in the middle for a match of this import in the Copa. He has a very limited competition CV. But Kevin Ortega was in the middle, and he turned it into your own choose your adventure coloring book last night at points when it came to being a guy with a whistle, Bart.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to address a couple of things. And the first is that, one, just because he hasn't refereed big games before, and remember, this is just a group stage match. Like, at the end of the day, this was just a group. Now, yes, we know that it was important, but this was just a group stage match.
Mm-hmm.
That said, and we deal with this at the grassroots level even, you have to at some point let these referees referee big matches because you can't keep having the top referees referee big matches until they retire. You do have to give referees below them chances. And a group stage match is an appropriate time, even against the U.S. and Uruguay, which, looking on paper, were the two best teams in this group. It's not bad that you let an inexperienced referee take control of this match. I think the problem is that clearly this referee never did anything to show that he could possibly referee a match like this. How valid are the reports that, he took jerseys from Boca in, a Libertadores match? I don't know. I'm not a reporter in South America, but things like that and the rest of the way he managed this game do call into question how he could have even been evaluated to the level for a match like this.
Point number one. Point number two. Go ahead, Jared.
No, it's the way that teams are able to take advantage of an inexperienced ref. Like, I don't know if this is your point number two, and I apologize if it is. The yellow card / advantage play, like. I would imagine Bart, but a more experienced ref in calling that foul, stopping play, calling that foul, yellow cards out. when Uruguay puts the ball down and tries to go quickly, blown the whistle 2-3 times, say, no, come back here. I didn't say
yes,
you could go yet.
100%. That is what you would have done. Yes.
And they took advantage of an inexperienced ref who was not up for that moment, and not just like on the like calls themselves, like yellow card. I'm fine with the yellow card. The call there is a yellow card tackle. You're breaking up a transition moment, but you can't let the players dictate.
You literally can't. It is impermissible by the laws of the game. Law 12. Well, we're getting into it, John. Sorry.
Here we go.
Law 12, fouls and misconduct. You have 12.3 disciplinary action. You can go to the IFAB and look at this yourself, but you have a whole point in here that says delaying the restart of play to show a card. Quote, once the referee has decided to caution or send off a player, play must not be restarted until the sanction has been administered. Now, there is a conditional clause here, comma, unless the non-offending team takes a quick free kick, has a clear goal-scoring opportunity, and the referee has not started the disciplinary sanction procedure. Now, that disciplinary sanction procedure is pulling out the yellow card, because what you have to do is show the yellow card, record it, and have as Dr. Joe Macknick pointed out last night, have a ceremonial restart. So had he called a foul and maybe the yellow card and the conversation with the player, which is the other thing, this is why you have a stoppage of play, is because you are signaling not just to the player, but to everyone, this is unacceptable. So you are administering the discipline to the player, a defender in this case, and you let Uruguay continue to play. That is clearly not in line with what the laws of the game want you to do. And again, that is not just inexperience. That's horrific refereeing. And I'm going to say it, and I'm sorry, because I'm going to get a little bit of my U.S. men's national team feels here. But
you're giving us the explicit rating in the first half hour?
Yeah, it's not explicit. I'm just saying that I think there needs to be legitimate questions about the refereeing performances that the U.S. men's national team received in this tournament.
Okay.
Because they were horrific. I mean, they were, it felt intentionally horrific. And I know that's the only time I'm going to say it in this conversation, but it was so bad.
Yeah. Nick has joined us this morning as we've gotten into reffing down here and discussing Kevin Ortega and rewinding back to Ivan Bart. Bart's here for like another 2 minutes before he gets in trouble with the real world, since he started riffing, of course. Nick, what's on your mind? We talked about Timothy Weah. We've gotten into reffing down here. What's on your mind with Bart before we send Bart back into the real world and keep our conversation going?
This was just an avalanche. It was an avalanche started by one small thing, two small things that turned into 50 small things that ended up taking everything sideways. So the officiating was a problem. Weah deciding to go, off the grid and go UFC caused a problem. And then Greg Berhalter, being Greg Berhalter, I think was the thing that finally broke everything loose. So with that, I yield my time back to Bart to close things out, because I don't want to go on too long.
On the flip side, we'll let you keep going, Nick. Bart, last thoughts from you before you head back into the real world.
The refereeing this tournament for the U.S. was bad. I think it's okay to say that. It is not the reason why you are no longer in this tournament. And there were 35 people involved with this team getting in this camp to get this team from, the least out of the group. That's all you wanted out of this. That was the most minimal expectations. And finally, achieving the minimum caught up to Greg Berhalter. And it seems like that seems to be how he coaches, period. And I know we love to talk about that one time he happened to take Columbus to the MLS Cup final. The man has done nothing of import since then. Beating an absolute trash Mexican program at this point in time is not a positive on the resume for me. I mean, it's just congratulations. It's the one good team you can beat. They're not that good. He continually gets outclassed by other coaches. The Panama coach has had his number since he came here. John Herdman had his number.
Ooh.
You can't change the players. That is the reality. You cannot. This is a national team situation. You cannot just find new players. You can hopefully maybe uncover some other new players. You cannot. Christian Pulisic, Tim Weah, Chris Richards, Matt Turner. Those are the best we've got. Like it's not like we have magically unearthed. We're not going to magically unearth other players who are somehow better. The reality is, at the national team level, you need a coach who knows how to make the best of his players, and not a fantasy philosophy and system that have never proven to actually been either A, implemented, or B, worked. And I'm sorry, but the man has to go, and he has done nothing in his defense to prove that he should stay. And the fact that he was rehired in the first place was already a problem. And the fact that there's not confidence in the organization that they will take the appropriate measures to make sure this team is in the best position to capitalize on the moment in 2026 is incredibly disheartening. And I'm hopeful that at some point today we get a statement from U.S. Soccer saying he's done, because I don't know how much longer this review process needs to happen, and I'm really sorry about it. But at some point you have to go, hey, he's not getting the job done. You got to go. Now, there are other things you need to review, but the homeboy right there, that's the one that needs to absolutely be changed, and his whole coaching staff, because they have failed at every turn.
Bart Keeler at Bartimus Prime 19 on the Soccer for US POD. He Irish goodbye us.
That's fine.
Wow.
Get out.
Wow.
It's an epidemic. Maddie's learned how to do it. Now Bart, I'm spreading the word, folks. I want Greg to succeed, and he hasn't. Man, it was just. I know, Nick, you just came in. I don't know how much you heard before you jumped in. But as I was talking about, I liked the fight against Uruguay. Like they were scrappy. They were up for a game against a team that I think is one of the favorites to win it. They weren't good enough to win last night. I'm not saying that the U.S. was good enough to beat Uruguay last night. So clearly everything's perfect. And it just got some tough luck. I'm not saying that. I was impressed with the fight they had against a very good and scrappy and miserable to play against team. But you got up for it when you needed to, but you were in such a hole that you could have put another 10 minutes of stoppage time up there. I don't think they're finding a goal unless Uruguay signs Euro legend own goal.
Yes.
To their roster for that game. I don't think you're finding something. I did notice something last night, John and Nick and everybody, that I thought was funny. I forgot Miles Robinson was on the bench for this team. How pissed off is Cincinnati is that Miles gets called in for the Copa and doesn't even see the field? Like, Miles is just attached to the bench. Cincinnati's probably going, we could use him. If you're gonna attach him to the bench for 3 games, can we have him back?
Yeah.
It's not a long flight. Hell, in some cases, it's just a drive. Can we please have him back?
Yeah. Oh, brother.
Hell, I'm still wondering why you don't bring Brandon Vasquez into national teams. Not even to start, man, but like the same reason you would have Haji Wright in there. It's the 80th minute. Tactics be damned. We're going for it, and we're to the point now, like late in that game, where like it was an Upsal Crunchberries of forwards on the field for the U.S. national team. Like, the midfield was like Tyler Adams, whatever was left of him endurance-wise, and like Christian Pulisic. And then it was like a couple defenders, question mark, and then Upsal Crunchberries of strikers. That's the moment where it's like, bring Brandon Vasquez for those. I think he's shown you what he's done in Cincinnati and what he's done in Mexico now. Like, bring him on for those moments so that when the ball falls to someone's feet, he has been very good in those moments, the ball not getting stuck under his feet and putting a shot on frame. Like, I'm still perplexed by that. I don't know if it would have fixed anything last night. You were already in a hole.
Yeah, breaking up that 3-2-5 in the Leroy Jenkins last 10 minutes. Nick?
Bro, that was like a 3-7.
Yeah, 3-7.
Yeah, it was a 307.
Yeah.
316.
Yeah, okay.
Tyler Adams was out there, battled the bastard, standing before the lines with a broadsword.
There you go. Nick, when we look at this situation, and it is a full-blown situation now, even if we sit here and say that there's only so much a coach can do. Coach can't get out there and play. Coach can only sit there and, do A, B, C, D, and E. He can't get out there and play. He can't put the ball in the back of the net. He can't create more chances, all that kind of stuff. I think that despite all of the right things that the players are saying and the right things that they said after the match, you are in a position right now, and we'll hear from Greg Berhalter in hour number 2. But Greg was asked for the last question in his press conference that was made available to us shortly after the match was over, that if he thought he was the right man to fix this, he said yes. I don't think you can afford to give him that chance right now, considering everything that has happened in this tournament.
National team failures across the board generally start with players who are not called up, who are left off a list. Speaking for Italy, you see this with with strikers who've been left behind, defenders who've been left off the list, and you're like, oh well, in this particular situation, this one player could have made a huge difference. And then you look at the U.S. men's national team, Miles Robinson, glued to the bench. As a good and proper Atlanta United supporter, I have no love lost for Miles. He bolted and, gambled on himself and apparently gambled his way up into Cincinnati, whatever choice that is. But, good luck to you. I don't want to see him fail. I don't want to see him succeed at an MLS level. But at the same time, you can't tell me the guy doesn't have talent. You can't tell me the guy is not a good player. Brandon Vasquez, he is a player who has size, he has speed, he has the ability, like several of those breakaway opportunities that the U.S. would have had last night. Mm-hmm. I think Vasquez could have capitalized on. And, does that mean every single shot is, going in the back of the net? No, because I'm not an idiot and I'm not going to try to say that that's the case. But would he have been able to knock off some of those Uruguayan defenders and put a shot on frame? Hell yes, he could have. And, I don't know what goes through Greg's mind when it comes to some of these players. When you call it Gio Reyna and you're leaving players who are scoring and producing like Brandon Vasquez, okay, great. For a guy who's not getting any minutes for his club team, okay, cool. That's a choice.
That's a choice.
Miles Robinson, athletic defender, great in the air. Set pieces, he could have come in and put a ball on the frame, no problem. Did he start and play any minutes? Nope. That's a choice. Good job, pal. So Greg Berhalter, if we go back and look at Confederations Cup, rest in peace, long may it reign.
Yes.
The U.S. men's national team showed up and showed out there with a manager who played a very direct style. And you had players who were very hungry to prove on a national stage that they belonged. I don't think a lot of the players, you have players now who are playing for in the top leagues around the world. I'm not saying they don't have that hunger, they don't have that drive, but you can't tell me that worse teams with worse coaches and worse tactics, would have, I don't know. Like it feels like those teams would have lapped this team. Berhalter has done nothing over his career other than proving to be a nice guy to warrant being in this job. He has coached himself and coached these players into a level of mediocrity that is absurd. They say sometimes that national teams reflect their country's culture. Nailed it. The fighting acronyms, not Le Bleu, not Le Azzurri, not La Fiori Rojo. You don't have, it's the fighting acronyms, right? It's this stagnant corporate culture that is embodied through U.S. Soccer and Greg Berhalter himself. And this whole system is rotten from the top down. And the same thing in Italy. That system is rotten from the top down. And you're going to have to do some significant legwork to get it completely overhauled. And the problem is I can say this with 100% freaking, it is death taxes. Italy's not overhauling. The likelihood of us making 2026, good luck. You guys, the U.S. men's national team supporters, you guys are going to be there in 26 because you're hosting.
Ain't got no choice.
And if U.S. Soccer keeps Captain Khaki in place, you're probably going to get grouped. You are completely at the mercy of the group draw, because I don't see anything with Berhalter that tells me that you can do anything other than beating a toothless Mexico. Don't talk to me about Gold Cups. Don't talk to me about anything else, because you're beating probably one of the weakest Mexican teams in recent memory. That it's, well, I beat Mike Tyson. You beat a 46-year-old Mike Tyson. You're not beating late 80s, early 90s prime Tyson. So don't sit there and tell me that you're, what you're hanging your hat on in this situation, because Berhalter's not doing it, man. He's just not. And it's just a cycle thing. Get him out. It's just time. There are plenty of other managers out there. Plenty.
Katie Weaver wants to have a Pepe conversation. She doesn't believe that he is a game-changing striker, in her opinion. And I think this goes back to our Brandon Vasquez discussion, because if you look at the striker situation, you're looking at Sargent, Pepe, and then, obviously what the lineup is for whomever's in charge up top. But I think it goes back to our Brandon Vasquez discussion of, would you have, Jarrett, would you rather Brandon Vasquez, Ricardo Pepi, or Josh Sargent?
Well, you don't have, I'm going to Beetlejuice the name of Nick's favorite non-Italian striker. You don't have a Romelu Lukaku,
no,
a dedicated
You don't have a power. You don't have a power forward that's just going to camp out and box out people.
Well, it's not about that. It's not about that. It's about, you don't have somebody whose name you put in pen on the lineup sheet every time out at striker. You have a rotating cast of good to sometimes great strikers when they're in form. We've seen these guys in their clubs go into fantastic form before. But you don't have somebody whose name is up there in Sharpie. Prime Altidore is actually a good example of it, because when Josie was young and healthy before his body collapsed like a dying star, Josie was that guy.
Yeah.
So you go with hot hand, you go with their different body types and their skill sets, you go with that. And when you don't have somebody who is, the one of one, who is your guy you put in with Sharpie, I think you have to choose the hot hand consistently. It's one of the reasons why during this tournament, I was kind of surprised. Not that you did. I'm not saying you have to go start a bunch of MLS guys, but that you didn't bring and feature more guys who are in the middle of their season, who are in form, who are into the rhythm of everything. Now, I know the Euro snobs are just absolutely clutching their pearls at the idea of playing MLS guys. God knows, why would we do that? This isn't.
Why would we want to
anymore.
soil ourselves playing against folks from Major League Soccer? How dare they?
But yeah, and you don't have somebody who's in pen, so why not go with the guys who are in form? And yeah, the Ballagren one hurts last night with the injury that he picked up.
Yeah.
It just
hip pointer.
It was. Yeah. It sucks. What really sucked is that he couldn't make it to halftime.
Yes.
Because if he makes it to halftime, you don't have to burn a sub window. Because he couldn't make it to halftime, he had to come out early. You had to burn a sub window, which meant in the second half, you only had 2 sub windows.
Mm-hmm.
So you did make a sub at halftime. Frankly, I thought they were about to burn another sub window on Joe Scally, which if you had burned a sub window on Joe Scally, and the fact that you almost had to, it's another tactical feather, not a good feather, a bad feather, that you lay at the feet of Frank Berhalter. Joe Scally took a really nasty tackle just before halftime.
Yep.
He was limping around. If you do not replace him at halftime, you have to know for a fact that he can go to 75 when you would make other subs, because you only have 2 windows. You cannot burn a window on him in that big of a game, because then you only have 1 sub window left, and it doesn't allow you to. It means you throw every piece, every die that you have of this mythical Cones of Dunshire just trash, that you have to throw all of them at once. The fact that Joe Scally had to come off for treatment and come back on, I'm glad he was able to gut it out. He was limping around a bit. I was surprised he wasn't subbed at halftime, because by not subbing him at halftime, you took a hell of a risk that almost bit you in the ass. Instead, sub him at halftime. It doesn't cost you a window. Yeah, you have to change shape. Yeah, you go with, you go with Shaq Moore, who doesn't give you as much going forward, but at least then you have somebody whose leg is attached consistently.
Yeah.
What happened to Daryl DK? I thought he was going to be.
It's just injuries at West Palm.
Daryl DK can't stay healthy to save his life. He's like Josie, but somehow even more injury prone.
Yep.
Which sucks, because Daryl DK, that magical summer in Orlando was great. Just can't stay healthy. Not the first nor the last U.S. striker who gave us hope, and then decided, and then whose body, not that he decided, but his body decided that the training table was its real home.
Yes.
Well, some of this goes into the choices that the players are making. Here's the thing. This is a conversation involving nuance. And that's the big issue here. Everybody wants to – it's so easy to have the barroom conversation where it's like, well, what's the issue with the U.S. men's national team? Berhalter. Okay, yeah.
They suck. That's the issue.
Right. So, but there are a lot of major issues here, that foundational issues. And some of them have been experienced before, and we're seeing how that's playing out on a global stage. You have players here in the U.S. who are desperate to get to Europe, right? Desperate to get to Europe. Where do you want to go? Europe. Okay, great, awesome, good for you. But let's try to narrow that down a little bit.
I want to go to Europe,
because this can go sideways for you very quickly. Example, George Bello.
Ding, ding.
Okay. George Bello had all the promise in the world, right? But I got to go to Europe. I got to go to Europe now, because he's hearing all the voices around him. It's time for you to go to Europe, man. You got to get to Europe. Okay, great. Well, your agent says, we got this great deal for you in Germany. Okay, awesome. Who? It's this team. They're okay. They're not that great, but it may get relegated. I don't know.
Arminia Bielefeld, yeah.
And so you have players who end up going to these relegation, edge teams, get relegated. Then they go into essentially a freaking Brazilian knife fight, in second division, which beats up it's not a clean level of play. The fields aren't in as good condition. The players are getting beat to hell. The injuries start mounting. You find the training table more often because you're desperate to get to Europe, right? There's a price to doing business. That's one piece of advice Dad always told me. He says, son, there's always a price to doing business. You just got to figure out what it is. And we're seeing this now with a lot of these players who are going to Europe. Daryl DK, right? Like all these guys who go and end up on these second division teams, get in these kind of crazy situations, get beat to hell. And then we're like, well, why aren't they getting called up? Well, because they're injured again.
Mhm.
They're always injured or close to being injured or fighting off some nagging injury. Why? Well, if you stayed home for a little bit, maybe you could, be a little healthier. I don't know. Or maybe if you had called your shot a little better or not listened to your agent, there's a lot that goes into this. If look at Brazil, right? When you had Brazilians who were by and large playing out of Brazil, and this is a dangerous comment, I know, because people go, yeah, MLS. There's some leagues where players don't need to be going abroad as much. You need a few for sure, but you don't need a majority of them going abroad.
Uh-huh.
I think Brazil is one of those. You see the diminishing returns on the Brazilian national team, since the heyday of the of the 90s. And you had some Brazilian players who, the development went sideways on Brazil. I think you see that with Italy. You see where you had a lot of Italian players. They had like a little burst post 2006. And then the federation went sideways and said, we want to play like Spain. And so we're going to focus on these these kind of kids who are better with just the ball at their feet. They're not good defenders. There's going to be better possession players. And, so you were relying on players who never even played in Italy, and there's something to be said about, having some players who develop here and cook here in the U.S. a bit, or cook in your respective country a bit more before going out to the world. And I know we want to see a 17 or 18-year-old U.S. player playing in England or playing in Spain. You want that. I get it. It's the same thing for, Italian players, they want to see more 17 and 18-year-olds playing at first level, and they're not getting it in Italy. So they're talking about trying to send them out. And that's how you get a Verratti. You get Marco Verratti, who never played in Italy, only played like in France, and does that help the culture of your team overall? That's a big question that has to be answered, because what's happening now with U.S. soccer and what's happening in Italy it's very similar problems, but they're going to be solved in very different ways. There's no culture right now in U.S. soccer, okay, because there's this divide between the European guys and the MLS guys, and the MLS guys who aren't getting called up. You have European players who are probably very good. You have some that aren't playing at all, and they're still getting called up. And how's this all going to be solved, right? It's a conversation of nuance. There's not one big thing that's going to fix all of this. If you fire Berhalter and you bring in a new coach,
mm-hmm.
Does that solve the player development issue in U.S. soccer? It does not. Does it solve agents trying to shove these kids into really crappy European teams just so they can get relegated and get the living hell beat out of them in second division? No, it does not. Does it provide a culture shift so that the players who do show up in camp maybe have a little bit of a fire under their ass and or react in high pressure situations differently? Yes, it can. So you have to solve the problems you can solve immediately. And I think that starts with removing Berhalter. That doesn't change the fact that your U17 coach, your U20 coach, all the way down has to be, you got to adjust all of this before 26, all of it, because it's a giant glacier that's moving toward you, and if you botch this opportunity to be competitive, it's I don't know, man. It's gonna be interesting. Bam asked me a question. I'm getting heat now from David for not answering it. Question for Nick: would you send your kid to go to Europe or South America to train?
Yeah. So if Jackie Fresh was the ish and you had a choice, what would you do? Or keep him at home in the right system?
It depends. It depends on what the goal is, right? Am I looking for competitive minutes? Am I looking for a mentality, right? So there's a lot of different ways to go on that. If you say, okay, Europe, all right, great. Where's he going to have the opportunity to play? In Europe, he would probably have more of an opportunity to play because I don't think you're probably going to have a lot of coaches in South America, like Argentina, Brazil, that would be like, yes, American player, please feel free to start, right? I think a lot of those the old mentality surrounding U.S.-based players.
It's like, oh, we have the American here. You go over there and go sit at the little kids table.
Right. And so Europe, I think it's not Europe as one entity. Like, would I send my kid to play in England? No. Because if there's a team that does take him, let's say it's a lower, like a team
like Middlesbrough.
That's on the verge of relegation in England. All right, if they're taking American players, what's the likelihood that they are anticipating being dropped down to the second division? Is that going to be good for him to be at the second division? No. Does being in City B make more sense? No. A mid-table Serie A team? Yeah, baby. All right, cool. Learn something. Mid-table German team? Sure. If Boca Juniors or River Plate were like, yeah, we'll take your kid. Hell yeah. I have no problem with that. I have no problem. So it's not as simple as Europe or South America to train. Greg Garza grew up playing in South America, right? I mean, you could say, if you asked him, he comes on Fridays, right? I mean, we can ask him.
Yeah.
I think Greg is a person who'd be perfect for answering this question.
And to your point, possible palate cleanser coming up in a couple of minutes involving Decatur FC. So we'll put a bookmark in that should we get to catch up on the WPSL. But to your point, I mean, literally it is these days, because of where the sport is, it literally is a country by country, case by case basis. And I think that you're fortunate in the fact that you get to kind of have all of these different ideas that you can look up. Okay, what's best for player X in their growth? But the agent traditionally is the one that is looking out for the agent and not necessarily for the player development. And then you get pushed into a situation that is detrimental to the player's growth, but it helps out everybody else but the player, if that makes any sense. And so you've got to have folks around you in your support system that can steer you in the right direction and be patient with your growth. And that, to me, is the key in all of this, where if it's like Europe or I almost have to take this literally country by country and sit there and go, okay, well, situation here, situation here, situation here. Is it, to your point, is it a mid-table team in the top flight? Is it a lower tiered team? Is it a lower placed team in the top flight that could be relegated? How does that benefit me? Literally, this has got to be one of the most selfish things as a player that you have to look at, and not just go diving into a situation that ends up hurting your growth and stunting your both your growth and your economic value over time.
Yeah, and sometimes the best move is the move not made.
Yes.
Sometimes the best move is, okay, well, we're going to cook here in Atlanta for a little bit. Is it the sexy move? No. Is it the one that makes people scratch their heads sometimes? Well, you're not really pushing yourself. That really depends. Did the move work for George Bello? No. But would I personally like to see more U.S. players training in South America? Hell yeah. Because here's what I like about the South American teams. A lot of is that they can change gears quickly, right? They can play. You want to do a knife fight? We can do a knife fight. Yeah. You want to play pretty? We can play pretty. Mm-hmm. You want to play 100 miles an hour? We can play 100 miles an hour. And they have a system. They say, this is how we can play. we can play a lot of different ways, but this is how we want to play.
Uh-huh.
If you look at Italy said, okay, after being walloped by Spain, they said, we're changing the way we play going forward.
Yeah.
Has that had any benefits going, since then? We won the Euros by really playing knife fight in a phone booth with England, right? And then Donnarumma standing on his head during penalties. And then Southgate being really stupid with substitutions right before penalties. So there's a lot that went into that. But I don't think Europe should be the only option. I think you should have players who go and, do the batshit crazy, Copa
There's the explicit rating. Well done.
We did sorry. Yeah. So, that should go and compete in Copa Libertadores.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one thing that the U.S. is missing now.
Right.
You can only schedule Mexico and Columbus so many times.
True.
You go to Argentina, play in Buenos Aires. Oh, it's a hostile environment. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yes.
It is.
All right.
A hostile environment.
Bookmark that. All right. We'll come back to it. Time to catch up with our friends at Decatur FC. Campbell Chapman. And he is the Grand Exalted Poobah on the touchline. And so we're going to catch up with Chap and find out about last night and find out about the season, what's next. Chap, thanks for dropping by.
Hey, good morning. I apologize. I'm driving, but I'll be pulling over in a little bit.
I was going to say, we need to do safe interview here. I don't want to get you into any kind of trouble.
Eyes are on the wheel. I'm good.
All right, just checking. It's John and Nick here with you. First off, walk us through last night. You got the Duke on the last match of the regular season. Well done.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's obviously that was a game. Obviously, we were looking forward to from a competitive perspective. A lot of the games that we've had this year, the competition has not been at really the standard that you would have a consistent performance level. Playing against. But going into last night's game, we had a good win on Saturday against a good side out of Nashville, and it was a good game. It was a proper game up and down the pitch. Probably for the most times this season, we were having to defend a lot more than we would normally have to, and at the end of the game, obviously a fortunate goal, but all goals are good when they go in the back of the net, and we got a good result.
Nick, for Campbell Chapman, the head coach at Decatur FC, first year in WPSL Southeast, go for it.
All right, first season is coming to a close. What are some things that you're looking forward to closing out after this match? What are some things that you as a manager are looking forward to and changing up or switching up, or areas you see opportunities for improvement?
Yeah, I mean, we were very fortunate. The squad that we brought in this year was deep, and we even added some girls towards the end of the season that were on the practice squad that did really well. Going into that league again, like we did going into this year, I knew that the standard of players that I was bringing in was going to be good. We had enough quality players from the SCC and other Division 1 conferences that we'd have a very competitive team. There's obvious areas where you can always feel that you can do better, and I would say, like in probably most of the coaches, that people who can put the ball in the back of the net, take the chances. Because defensively we were solid. I'm not sure exactly, but I think we only gave up 3 goals during the course of the season. But when you have those big games, when you need something special up front, we missed Becky Contreras, who got injured in game number. I forget the game she got injured. I think it was the Knoxville game. And having a physical presence up at the top end of the pitch is always important. So I think that would be the one area where next season I would look to strengthen a little bit. Would probably be up in the forward positions.
So, Chap, you had a record-setting year in the stands where Decatur FC had a lot of folks in some very hot conditions. You had a lot of diehards that were out there at Decatur High School watching you this season. What was it like to see that support come at you from absolute zero? Match day one, they're diving in, and you get all of these attendance records set in the WPSL. What was it like to have that kind of support from the absolute beginning?
It's amazing. I mean, to be honest, last night, I think there was probably, I couldn't give the exact number, there's probably 300 people at the game last night because it was at Oglethorpe. And at the end of the game, I mean, the fans were chanting, Decatur FC really get into the game. And I think that's the one thing that what we brought to the city is we brought across the board a different, maybe people who maybe not even soccer fans who've gone to their first game, definitely probably their first game watching a high level women's game, and have just fallen in love with it.
Nick, go for it.
This is kind of a out of left field question a bit. Playing in downtown Decatur, right? We're not talking about playing in downtown Atlanta, downtown, like of a large major metropolitan area. We're talking about that sort of neighborhood club feel that you get a lot of times in Europe, right? Where you have like the stadium is within walking distance of where you live. It's embedded inside of these neighborhoods. Can you talk a little bit about that sort of the atmosphere that Decatur has been able to build there because of your location, because of the sort of neighborhood vibe that you guys have been able to put together there? And because I feel that that's something that needs to grow more here in America, as far as having neighborhood clubs that you can build with and grow with. Can you talk a little bit about the vibe that you're feeling out of Decatur right now?
Well, I think, I live in Decatur and Gareth lives in Decatur. And, Decatur is a unique environment to live in the sense of like, there's nothing really like it, especially being in downtown Atlanta, and you don't even know when you've entered it and you're in it. But the community of Decatur really embraced that's, I think, the sport more than anything. That, I always say, I've only seen the movie Home Alone, where they break into the house when people go on vacation. And I always said, if there's an Atlanta United game and you're a burglar, that would be the best place to be. Would be Decatur. You just find every flag and just go have at it because they love it. And I think with Decatur FC, what we brought is we've just sort of piggybacked, I think, a little bit on the Atlanta United way that people have the flags in this outside their houses. And I think the people have. Well, one, obviously, social media plays a huge part of, getting the word out. But once people came to a game, I think they sort of felt like this would be something that they could do again and do again. And the city was great with the support they gave as far as making it accessible, people getting into the stadium really quick. Even if they got there late, you could still have that walk up. Back home in England, you talk about the Premier League. I go back home and the hardest thing to do is get a ticket for a game. And that's why, like you're talking about, Nick, the smaller clubs are still being able to survive because people want to watch professional football. And so it's accessible. They just go to their own local club. The Premier League now is very difficult to get tickets for. And I think that was one thing that was helped Decatur FC is that you could still walk up on a Friday at 7:00 and get into the stadium and watch a game.
So Campbell Chapman now investing in safe interviewing here on the morning show.
I'm parked. I'm good.
It's in going over the season for Decatur FC in the WPSL Southeast, finishing second in the regular season behind 865 Alliance by 1 point. The one draw versus the one loss making the difference. 865 Alliance finishing on top with 6 wins and 2 draws. Decatur finishing 6-1-1 on the year. And yet, Chap, you only gave up 3 goals the entire season. When you look at everything that you have accomplished on the field this year, off the field, getting all these attendance records, if I had told you the beginning of the year that you would have gone 6-1-1, that you would have been 1 point out of the top in the WPSL Southeast, that you'd be setting all these attendance records. If we were at O'Sullivan's and we had this conversation before the season started, what would you have told me?
I would have shook my head. I would have said, that like I said before many times, we'd have been happy with having 200 people at the games, because you have no idea of the growth of what that could, when people started talking about we're having a team, I mean, it was really just Gareth and I just telling everybody we're going to be doing this. And then consequently, with the explosion of I think getting the word out, like I said before, the city having it and pushing it through their flags and the banners and social media, it just started to become a little of an underground thing. And then, of course, when we started playing, and I think the most important thing, John, as well, is we did play good football. We were a good team to watch. And I think people enjoyed coming to the game and then seeing how well we were playing. And the girls were fantastic in playing good football. And I think that helped with us keeping it going over. People wanted to come back and say, oh, we'll watch them again. Because, if you're not a good product on the pitch and the games aren't good to watch, then why would you go back? And I think that was an important part of something that we couldn't really see, because you never can say, I mean, if you watch Decatur FC play now, how we're going to play. And I think that's something that kept it going more than just just people going for the first time, is that people came back.
one last go around with Campbell Chapman, the head coach of Decatur FC. Nick, go for it.
Well, this is not even so much a question. I think I'm just extremely proud of the fact that you guys have been able, because I've known Gareth for a long time, from his days with the Atlanta Beat, whenever he first got that program up and running. I'm so proud to see neighborhood clubs, community clubs thrive and come out of the gate and kicking in doors and, really making a statement. So the only thing I would do is issue a challenge really to you guys and say, just please keep this up. Don't change that mentality. Keep that same energy going, because I think what you guys are doing is excellent, and just looking forward to what you guys are bringing coming down the road.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, we're going to be doing things during the off season to keep us relative. We'll be doing some camps at Christmas. We'll do some camps at spring break, when we can get the players back in, when they're back in town, and we can get them, get the kids out there playing with them. Because one thing that I haven't spoken about was the phenomenal support from the younger kids, from girls and boys who are playing soccer and love soccer. And I think that's something that we noticed far more towards the end of the season, is that girls are, kids are showing up with banners with Scylla or people like that they've actually started to relate to as young, especially young girls, watching the game. They're starting to see some, these are actually developing into sort of like little mini idols within the city or within youth soccer. So that's the one thing that really was been fantastic, is the growth of the fan base, and especially the young fan base.
Now, so what is next, sir, other than maybe catching some sleep?
Well, actually, I'm full-time at GSA at the Youth Soccer Club up here in Lilburn, and I'll give a plug to our 2010 girls, our under-14s who qualified for the last 8 in the national championship. So we're off next week to Richmond to play in the ECNL national finals.
Don't be a stranger, chap. It's always been great to catch up with you
Anytime.
And everybody there at Decatur FC this season. And so crash whenever you want to talk. It's been great to see you this year.
Cheers, John. Thanks, Nick.
All right. That's Campbell Chapman, the head coach of Decatur FC. Finished up strong last night, had a couple of hundred up at Oglethorpe. So that was your palate cleanser for the morning.
There we go.
With everything else going on in and around the planet, put a bookmark in all of the discussions that we had. Now we'll circle back to said discussion. So David says this conversation is the whole reason I hate the can't improve if you stay in U.S. crowd, end quote. There are bad foreign club situations. It's not a one-size-fits-all process.
100%. 100%. Again, this is a conversation about it requires nuance, and nobody likes having conversations because that involve nuance, because you don't get that sort of that declarative moment, where you get to plant the flag and be like, ha ha ha, I've been proven right, because like I said, with the conversation that Bam brought up, would I like the opportunity to be able to have an honest shot in South America? Sure. In Europe, if the situation's right, but there's also the not sexy choice of maybe just stay here in Atlanta,
maybe you stay at home.
Right. And, Landon Donovan, as much as people gave him grief for going to Germany and being like, yeah, this don't work for me. And coming back to the U.S., I think everyone was pretty happy with his performances largely in World Cup play, right? Are there some players who probably should have pushed the envelope more? Jordan Morris? Yeah, probably. But Jordan didn't want to do that. Jordan wanted to stay here. Mm-hmm. And I think you really need to have players who represent your development system in totality on your team. You need guys who are MLS players starting if they are the best player at that position.
Right.
Are you telling me there's no U.S. player who's better than Gio Reyna? I have questions, because the kid can't even start at his parent club. And you're telling me that without a doubt that kid's better? Okay. All right. Sure. I mean, I'm not in the camps, man. I don't see. But it's hard for me to buy that there's no player in the pyramid who is better than, or who's worse than Gio Reyna, who's not even getting starting minutes at his own club.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're going to start players who are in Europe. Okay, awesome. Christian Pulisic, I did not want him at Milan. He has been a very good player for Milan. I still can't stand the Christian Pulisic fanboys, but it's the parent club. Yes, I just got that. Just got that. But Pulisic, I think has worked wonders at Milan. I can't stand the fanboys, but he's worked wonders. And Pulisic, people were trying to give Pulisic grief on social media. I'm like, for what? I mean, the guy played pretty darn well. He was an aggressive, abrasive captain. I want that out of a captain sometimes. I want that captain who's not afraid to get in the ref's face and be like, hey, straighten yourself out, But I have issues with how Greg, called up players, and I have issues with U.S. men's national team supporters who say all the players need to be in Europe. No, they don't. No, they don't. They need to come up in situations that best benefit them and their growth. I want players to grow. And if that means, I have a player, we'll use Italy as an example, who's playing, at Palermo. Okay. Or you have Camarda, who's coming up for Milan, who is like one of the best youth players in recent memory. I would debate calling him up. I mean, what the hell are you gonna do? Call him up. The kid balled out, as a teenager in his one call up with Milan. Hell, man, do it. Call him. But if the kid wants to stay in Italy, let him stay in Italy. Let him stay with Milan and grow and develop. Don't feel like you have to send them off to, some far-flung English club in order to be valid. It's this constant debate of how you define your own validity, right? Like, you're not a great player if you're not going to Europe to test yourself. That may not be best for your growth, And there's this all or nothing sort of mentality that is taking hold that will not help your team develop. It won't help the U.S. men's national team develop. The only thing that I want to have in conversation that involves any sort of totality at all is a discerning eye. I want a discerning eye put on every level of growth and development for my national team in Italy. If that means a youth coach is not cutting and has a ton of friends up in the federation and is protected from on high by the devil himself, I want him out. I don't care. I don't care about political pushback. I want discerning eyes put on every level of growth and development. And U.S. men's national team fans should want that as well. More so than I want player X in Europe. Player X is only with you for a short period of time. May or may not, depending upon injuries, be available for you in 26. You need to be looking at a systemic overhaul rather than just player X needs to be here, player Y needs to be there.
Bam with a question. He goes, should the MNT start playing some of the U23s from now on so they can be ready for the World Cup?
I think yes. And I think you should be testing them, throwing them in the fire. U.S. men's national team, so Fresno State football had a period of time where they said their slogan was anyone, anytime, anywhere.
Dr. Pat Hill, baby.
Yeah. And Pat Hill would get on TV. He'd be like, if USC wants us to come up to Los Angeles and play there, we'll play there. If Alabama wants us to come to Bryant-Denny, we'll go to Bryant-Denny and play. We don't care. You book us and we'll come play. I think the U.S. men's national team should start adopting that same philosophy. Anyone, anytime, anywhere. So if Brazil says, we want you to come to Rio and play us in Rio.
At the Maracanã, we'll dial it up.
Yeah. The U.S. men's national team shouldn't even debate it. Like, yep, we'll be there. Okay, Italian national team. Hey, you're going to come play at the Olimpico in Rome. Yep, on the way.
Tell me when.
England. You're going to come play us at the Big O. All right, done. Let's go. You want to say Wembley? Yeah, we'll go to Wembley. Baby, let's go. Come on.
Yeah.
Book it, baby.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are going to get your teeth kicked in, but it's like Marine Corps boot camp, man. When I showed up, I put my feet on yellow footprints and I got my teeth kicked in from day one. And the growth that took place over a 3-month period because you were getting your teeth kicked in constantly. That's what's needed. Through hardship, through shared hardship comes unity, comes teamwork, right? You get put in situations where it's like, all right, we're playing in front of a hostile crowd. Oh God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're used to that. That's not a problem. What's that? What is it that Jocko, the Navy SEAL podcast? No factor, right?
Yeah.
We're going to a World Cup and wherever.
Yeah.
And we're playing in front of a hostile crowd. No factor.
Mm-mm.
We're going on the road. We're going to be on the road for a long time. No factor. Because it's us. It's us in the room, and we've been tested. So yeah, call your U23s and put them in the fire. Go to Edmonton in the middle of ass winter and play. Oh, it's freezing cold. No factor.
Yeah.
We're playing in front of a hostile crowd in Houston.
Oh,
no factor.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this. That's the one thing that infuriates me about the U.S. men's national team. Well, if we play somewhere that they're going to have more fans for the other team than America. Good.
So what?
Good.
Oh, what?
Good Lord.
God.
Good.
Oh, no. Damn.
You got to toughen up, man.
Yeah. Oh, there were two other things that we didn't get the chance to talk to Bart about in the first half hour involving reffing down here. First off, the offside goal for the goal that was the decider. That one kind of got, with all the philosophical stuff we got into about Kevin Ortega, the actual goal got left on the Lazy Susan in the middle of the kitchen.
Yeah.
That was offside. Yeah. And it goes to review, and I give Copa America full credit, because what they do after matches, they don't do it as a news dump. I mean, you've got to know that they do, in fact, do it, but it's not a news dump. That they will take situations that involve VAR and they will post the audio basically the same night.
Mm-hmm.
So Copa America posted the conversation involving VAR in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So first off, I give them full credit for it. And I'm going to try and not, blast my ears out as I kind of do the transcript for this whole thing. So I'm going to adjust my headphones briefly here.
Okay.
I'm going to hit play. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys get to hear that music, but it went blowing through my ear. Thank God. Okay. So the goal gets scored. So what CONMEBOL's doing, literally that night, they're like, here's the deal. They explain the situation. It is inside VAR studio. Literally, not messing around, not a news dump, not an oh, by the way. So laws of the game stated a player's not offsides if he's at the same level as second last opponent or the last two opponents. So that is laws of the game. Player's not offside if he's at the same. VAR is in its protocol check when a goal is scored using virtual lines tool. And so this is them literally walking through the whole thing. Attacker who scores the goal on the same line as the second to last defender. Using the ladder's foot as a reference, generating a single line at the same height as the defender and the attacker, which does not constitute an offside offense. That is what CONMEBOL is saying as a part of this process. They look at the second to last. Ladder's foot is a reference, generating a single line at the same height. After the procedure, VAR confirms original on-field decision goal, and then they release the audio of the conversation. So good on CONMEBOL for doing this. I still think he was offside as hell, but that's just me. Separate and among everything. CONMEBOL gets credit for releasing, but they don't get credit for what looks like completely and totally offsides up top. So that was one of the defining moments. So go to the Copa America website. They have VAR analysis of events and key events. They don't bury it like some other folks do. That's your public service announcement for the day. Second, did you see the thing at the end, Nick, with the handshake?
Yeah.
Now, there is an extended version of the video that did not air in the clipping of the highlight itself. There are still more questions, I think, than answers. But the other point that I wanted to talk to Bart about was if the captain of the team, even if you don't like the guy, you shake his hand after the match, you know?
Yeah. I think that this is where you're asking a lot of officials, and you should. I think that has to be very clear. You ask a lot of officials, and you should ask a lot of officials. The official in this situation, even if Pulisic is over there saying, hey, go celebrate with Uruguay, you have to show that you are fair and impartial. Mm-hmm. Bite your tongue, shake the hand, and move on.
Yeah.
Because it now you have like a full-blown, it turns into a thing. And if he had just said, yep, okay, good luck to you in your future endeavors.
Yeah, basically, hand,
yep.
Yeah.
And keep it moving, people would be like, oh, the crooked official, but like, you know, then they'd be like, oh, well, Pulisic's chewing his ass out. Pulisic's chewing him out, and the ref still shook his hand. Like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Pulisic maybe needs to stop being a jerk, right? But now, because the ref refused to shake his hand, now it's this conspiratorial thing. Ha. See, the official hates America, and the ref brought it on himself by not shaking his hand. So
yeah. So, you end up with more fun and games involving Kevin Ortega. And to Bart's point, the history lesson with Kevin Ortega, top flight debut back in 2015, so when he was 23. Regular appearances in the Sudamericana, the Libertadores. 7 senior international matches, including yesterday. Stayed out of the spotlight, but then Bart did mention back in 22, discovered to have had Boca Juniors jerseys in his possession. Possession came to light after he awarded what was deemed a soft penalty to Boca Juniors in a fervent clash with one of our favorite sides on Picks of the Week, Bolivian side always ready. This is from the Sporting News. Despite the optics of the situation, important to remember referees are often offered match uniforms as a gesture of goodwill by the sides for which they have officiated. So Tyler Adams gets a yellow for the 50-50. 32nd minute was the still holding the yellow card, panicking, stopping, playing on, oh crap, I didn't get to do my job, and the play continued moment that we talked about in the first half hour with Bart and here. Then you stop for a handball on Uruguay, despite the fact Pulisic was running one-on-one up the right touchline in a counterattack.
Yeah.
Literally, it was like 3 or 4 seconds after Pulisic had started sprinting down the right wing. Then you get Ortega like going tweet, and you're like, bruh, what are you doing?
Yeah.
The decision was to play advantage in the counterattack. Ortega blew his whistle 3 seconds late.
Yep.
And then you get the moment after the match. Pulisic motioning to the referee to go celebrate. Go to the middle is what I think Pulisic said. Go celebrate with the Uruguay players shortly before attempting to shake his hand. So that was where you were. Oliveira's goal, let's see. Ortega deliberated with VAR, likely to overturn. Did not relinquish. But, VAR does exist. The conversation does exist. We might play it tomorrow if we have time. Tomorrow's going to be a hell of a sprint, by the way. Tyler, Nino, and Nico all joining us tomorrow.
There you go.
Well, I mean, Tyler, the thing is, since we don't have a Thursday show because of that thing called July 4th.
Yep.
And the boss doing the road race, where I have to be hydration expert and snack expert to make sure that folks have a proper vitamin distribution after doing a 6.2 mile race.
Can I speak really quick on hydration?
Absolutely, please do.
Okay, as someone who's somewhat of an expert in this particular field,
at being hydrated.
Yeah. if you are doing any sort of physical activity like the Peachtree Road Race or whatever, the night before, okay, do not be drinking the night before.
Oh, not like alcoholic beverage type.
No alcoholic beverages the night before. You should not be hydrating like 8 hours. Like when I mean hydrating, I mean like actively trying to be like, okay, let me make sure I got enough fluids in my body. Yeah. You should be maintaining a state of proper hydration 48 hours before you do this.
This is not a crash course where you have to sit there and go, oh crap, I've got to get hydrated. No.
Correct. Because if it's like, if you start running at what time is it you start running? Like 8?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, the other groups other than the stars chasing the paycheck might be like 7:15, 7:30.
Okay. So if you wake up at like 5:30 and you start chugging, all you're doing is hurting yourself because your body's going to flush. Yeah. Your body's like, oh crap, I'm getting too much at one time, and flushes, right? Yeah. So then you could actually, in effect, dehydrate yourself more.
Huh.
So this is what we learned this when you go to the desert. You learn proper hydration. So I'm pretty much 2 steps short of a Fremen from Dune when it comes to maintaining the body's moisture.
Well done.
So what we saw when we did training in 29 Palms, you had guys who would, oh crap, I forgot we're doing this big training evolution tomorrow. I'll just hydrate in the morning. And they would pound Gatorade, they would pound water. They were always the first ones to pass out. Death, taxes, those people who do same morning hydration, they were the first people who would pass out because of the heat. The people who hydrated a full day before, 2 days before, mixed in sugar, not just water. You got to mix a little bit of sugar in there as well. Mix a little bit of sugar with it. And they were always the ones who were fine. Okay. So you can't just pound water and only water. You got to make sure you mix it up. But don't do same day hydration or you are risking significant health challenges.
Huh. Okay.
Just trust me on this. A lot of desert training. Do not do same day super crush hydration.
Super crush hydration.
No, don't do that mess.
Okay. We got a half hour left on the board here. Yesterday in St. Louis City SC decided to jettison their first ever head coach.
All right. Speaking of choices.
Yeah, that's a choice.
You had an unbelievable first year, right?
Yeah.
How far did they go again?
Well, they won the Captain America Shield. They won the pie plate. Then they got bounced in the first round of the playoffs.
Okay, so they won silverware, even if it's the unbalanced schedule Shield. You won that.
Yep.
Year one. You got bounced in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you had to play the same team back to back, and they had you figured out. But okay, fine, yeah.
Right. Okay. And so then this year, what's their record? Do we know? What's their current position?
Well, let's see. Their current position is what we would refer to as not good.
Okay.
In the Western Conference. So the standings in the West. So last season, the big appetizer plate that would traditionally have, maybe the cold shrimp and the cocktail sauce in the middle of it that you have at your favorite party. That is not where St. Louis City SC currently is. The team that is at the top of the Western Conference, as well as the clubs that are in positions 2 through 11, are not named St. Louis. St. Louis is currently 12th in the Western Conference with a record of 3-7-10, 10 draws in half of their matches, draws. So you're catching matches a point at a time. You are 12th. You are at 19 points. You are 9 points out of the play-in round in the Western Conference. 3-7-10. You've scored 27, given up 35, and you have not won a match at home this year. You are 0-4-5. You are 12th, and you are not close to making it.
This is trying to save season ticket revenue. That's if you want me a hot take, that's my hot take.
Yeah.
That firing a coach in this situation, even if it is the right thing to do, doesn't mean it's the right time to do it. So with what St. Louis is dealing with now, if you like, Atlanta is a different animal than this, and I'll explain how it's different. St. Louis, if you are a future manager and your agent says, "Hey, I just got a phone call from this team in MLS, St. Louis."
No.
Okay. All right, cool. So one, that's not an attractive city to go to. Is anything open in LA, New York, or Miami? No. All right. Why'd they fire their previous manager? Well, he won silverware the year before. They had an off year and they fired him. 2 years and he won silverware in year one. Yep. Oh, I'm not going there. So the difference is that Atlanta with Gonzalo, he had a number of years to work things out, right? And it didn't. And so they let him go mid-season. But there's enough time there for a manager to go, okay, they will give you time to implement your system and to figure things out. You're not getting that with St. Louis right now. So you run the risk of being caught in this sort of merry-go-round of managers now, because you're going to be attracting a certain kind of manager, like the paycheck chasers, the quick fix gurus. Those aren't people who are going to be a long-term fix for you. So you have to be unbelievably careful now with your next hire. It means you're also going to probably have to pay more to get a quality candidate through the doors. So you are going to have a different kind of conversation than Atlanta is. Atlanta says, we have this phenomenal facility, this training ground, top flight. It's being expanded as we speak. You have an opportunity to play in front of one of the best crowds in MLS. You're in a city where the airport's right down the road. You can go anywhere in the world, no problem. There's a lot of attractive things when it comes to this city. You don't have really any of that with St. Louis. And I've been to St. Louis. It's fine. Okay, great. But it's hard for me to buy into managing a team where the previous guy won the Supporter Shield year one. And then is fired the next year. Even if the record is abysmal, it's hard for me because is it a player issue? Was it a manager issue? Is it a front office issue? Like, there's so many variables I have to solve for if I'm being hired to come fix this, that I don't know if I want to deal with that, right? So if you look at Atlanta, what Atlanta's record is right now, new manager bump, whatever, it's easier for me to be like, okay, maybe the previous manager seemed to be well-liked by everyone in the building, nice guy, maybe tactically was deficient in a few areas. This is a coaching issue. I can solve this. It's far more attractive than all the variables you're dealing with on the other side. And with Atlanta, you're like, all right, they sold their star injury-prone striker. They got a $10 million back for that. They're selling the top playmaker for 20, could be up to 30 million if the incentives hit.
Right.
This is a lot of money I have to play with when it comes to recruiting new talent. And I seem to know what the challenges were on, the opposite end. So this is a far better situation than the situation over in St. Louis. That's the issue they've walked themselves into. Right choice, wrong time. So that's just my 2 cents on the matter.
And so, of course, after dismissing your head coach, you're trying to figure out, okay, what is my future? What you look in the crystal ball. You're going, indeed, what is my future? What do we do? What are we doing here? Who do we bring in? What do we do? What are we doing? What do we get?
Reply hazy. Try again.
Yes, exactly. So, of course, St. Louis City, the day after you fire your manager, you sign a new DP.
Of course.
Signing former St. Pauli and German midfielder Marcel Hartel, pending receipt of his ITC and his P1 visa on a free through June of 28 with a club option for the remainder of 28. Hartel will be one of City SC's 3 designated players and hold an international roster spot. City acquired Hartel's discovery rights, and this is another thing. I'll get into discovery rights again in my rant in a second. From Crew for $350,000 in 2024 GAM. Available for selection beginning July 18, much like Pedro Amador for Atlanta United, their new left back. Start of the summer transfer window is the day after the match in the midweek against NYC, at least in the Atlanta purview. Lutz Pfannenstiel had a 2-sentence quote. Club president and GM Diego Giuliani had a paragraph. Hartel, 28, had his best season of his career to help lead St. Pauli to a promotion in the Bundesliga First Division. 30 goal contributions, 17 and 13. 6 goal contributions, 4 and 2 during the DFB Pokal, which is like their all-in tournament. It's like their version of Open Cup. 37 total games during the 23-24 season. 3 seasons, 28 goals, 31 assists in all competitions. And so on a free, the day after you fire your coach, you bring in a new German midfielder DP.
All right.
Okay, so this whole thing about discovery rights. Stop it. Stop discovery. You know, if I could come up with like a signboard, you know, just, you know, something where it could be like, well, you know, if we had like a light board or we could do billboards out on the freeways, I would do like stop discovery rights. It's basically dibs. I got dibs on that guy. Well, but you're not going to sign him. I got dibs. I got dibs on what's worth to you. And so City pays Crew $350,000 worth of Garber bucks for basically dibs on a German midfielder.
My favorite is who had Messi's discovery rights?
Oh, God. Who had Messi's discovery rights? Hang on just a second.
That's what's hilarious to me. It's like somebody we discovered him first. Like, what?
Yeah, you did.
You mean when he was balling out of control at Barcelona? Was that when you had it? Like, when exactly did you discover Lionel Messi, MLS club? So, you know, the whole thing is like you have a player like Messi who's like, there's one place I'm going. One. You know, I'm not going to Kansas City. I'm not going to Minnesota. You know, I'm not going to Columbus. I'm going to Miami.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but see, we have to negotiate with Columbus to get your discovery rights. What?
Excuse me, what?
Hold on. Wait, who?
Oh, my God.
So Columbus wants to talk to you because they hold your discovery rights. I'm not taking that call.
Yeah. It's like, no, thanks for dropping by. No, I'm cool. It's all good.
It's like Deion Sanders when Deion Sanders was getting drafted, and you know, it was like the Giants or somebody came in and said, "Hey, you have to take this test," and Deion's like, "Where are you picking?" They're like, 22. Like, I'm not doing that.
No.
I'm not going to be there by then.
No.
It's the same thing. I was like, oh my God. It is a relic of a bygone time.
Dibs.
And it's time to let it go.
Dibs. I got dibs. Well, okay. So, you know, I could see, you know, literally, I got dibs on Holland.
Yeah. When did you discover young Master Holland?
Oh my God.
When did that come up? Was that discovery in you know, like with his U8 team?
Yeah. Yeah. When his dad was trying to pedal him through systems when he was at U8. U8 and U12. Yeah, so literally be like Chivas USA has discovery rights on Erling Haaland.
Right.
I mean, stop with the dibs. Oh my God, that drives me crazy.
But it's a relic of a bygone time that makes no sense at all.
Yeah, it's true.
None.
No.
And
therefore,
it's a way for cheap clubs to get free money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Philly, you get $300,000 because you discovered Neymar. So congratulations on your epic scouting. Way to have the foresight to put that out there.
It was a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got folks in some kind of a front office somewhere in a Major League Soccer franchise. Yeah, it was a great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, like Salt Lake is going to sit there and be like, Messi might just come here. No, he's not.
It'd be like, like if Union Omaha had discovery rights and they decided it's like Union Omaha's got discovery rights on Messi in USL League One.
Yeah.
Be like that kind. No, I'm not going to Omaha.
No, I'm not.
No offense to Omaha and Warner Park and Papelon, Nebraska, but no.
If I'm Messi's agent, I'd be like, no, with absolute offense to Omaha, I'm not going there.
Like, no,
we're not going to be there.
No. Sorry, no.
No,
we're
not going to be there.
No, not happening.
Same thing with all these other clubs. No, Charlotte, you're not getting Superstar X.
You're not getting, you're not getting Jude Bellingham.
Yeah.
I've discovered Jude Bellingham. Dibs.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Okay. Just stop. We do have our referee assignments for tomorrow. And then, like I said, tomorrow is stacked. It's Tyler, it's Nino, it's Nico. So Tyler Pilgrim from Scarves and Spikes joining us at 9:15 as he always does. And then we're going to talk. We're sliding our Thursday schedule to Wednesday because of road races and things. And so Nino Torres, our buddy from Gold TV, is going to be with us live from his expansive pad in Lima, Peru, I imagine, at 10 o'clock. And then Nico Moreno joining us from Pulso Sports and the Soccer Bar at 10:30. We'll see if Jason can join us maybe in hour number 1 to have the discussion about Major League Soccer with Tyler and anybody else that wants to crash on the party line on a Wall Pass Wednesday. No live programming Thursday. I think we're going to run the best ofs from the high school schedule, and we're going to start that at 9 o'clock in the morning, probably with Gainesville and Johnson Gainesville. Probably run Dalton McIntosh and a couple of others from the high school schedule. So that'll be the programming. Just set your notifications. Pre-game show, match, post-game show, the whole thing. Those will be running all day long on the network. So it'll be fun to revisit all those. Okay, your ref assignments are out. And at least in certain places. Pro hasn't posted them yet across the board. But it looks like the crew for Atlanta United in New England, Jerry Marufo will be the man in the middle. Ian McKay, Matthew Nelson, no relation, your ARs. Fourth officials, Guido Gonzalez Jr., Daniel Radford, your VAR, and your AVAR is Tom Supple. By the way, as a public service reminder, Timothy Ford was back in the middle this past weekend, and David Barry was also back at VAR this past weekend, as was Yunus Marakchi. Doing VAR. And this is another thing that I don't know, and I don't know if there's any kind of empirical evidence to support any theories one way or the other. But you have VARs doing a match in the Eastern time zone, and then they do a match in the Pacific time zone. They'll do a 7:30, then they'll do a 10:30. I don't know if that's necessarily wise. I get it as the idea of catching 2 paychecks or doing 2 matches on a match day. But I don't know if that's a smart thing to do just because you have to have officials be up and amped and ready not once but twice. And I wonder if the West Coast matches, when it comes to VAR, what their numbers, their empirical evidence is as opposed to the East Coast matches. Nick, I'm just thinking out loud. I just don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah. I can agree.
But hey, we get to do 2 matches.
Hey.
You get to do 2 matches,
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
The quest for more money.
Yeah. Tom says that anyone see on the 280 character app where Hugo Perez basically threw his hat into the Atlanta United ring. I have not seen that.
I have not seen this either. This is going to be a job that I think you're going to get a lot of interest in. I don't know how much of that's going to be reciprocated.
Yeah.
But I do think that you're going to get a lot of people who are going to lobby for that, because again, you saw where they gave Pineda a ton of time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They stuck with Pineda even when he was in the middle of some really rough streaks.
Mm-hmm.
And they supported him by bringing in new players.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
That is very attractive to managerial candidates.
Yeah.
That's very attractive to agents because it's a team of money and you're going to get your commission. So that's why I keep hammering home. It can be the right call to fire a manager,
mm-hmm.
but it can be the wrong time if you're not careful. Right. And that can damage your future opportunities. So Atlanta, I think, made the right call at the right time because you're in play for a different caliber of manager. You're looking for managers who are South American-based, European-based. Once these tournaments get over with and the higher fire cycle gets in full swing,
right?
Some candidates may drop into your lap. They're like, "Oh, well, I was not expecting this particular candidate, Tata Martino, to land in your lap."
Yeah.
This is insane. So just be patient. As far as Hugo Perez, okay, your interest has been noted. Thank you.
There are names out there, and he is one of them. Basically,
we acknowledge his name is in the hat.
Yes, the All-Star list got announced yesterday. We have the MLS All-Stars that have been chosen to take on Liga MX July 24th in Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
At the Death Star.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your list. The way that it broke down, 12 determined by a combined vote of fan, media, and players. 16 players selected by Wilfred Nancy, and 2 selected by Don Garber. Your forwards, Chicho Arango, no-brainer. Benteke, he was voted in. I get it. Bernardeschi was a coach's selection. Denny Bwanga, a coach's selection. Good call. Cucho, coach's selection, no-brainer, local, understood.
Yeah.
Messi, voted in, no shock.
Mm-hmm.
Diego Rossi, coach's selection, no, and once again, hometown pick, I get it. Luis Suarez voted in because, you want to see Luis Suarez. Midfielders, Lucho Acosta voted in. Sergi Busquets voted in.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Choinière, a coach's selection, and this goes back to Nancy's time at CF Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
So this makes sense that he would pick Choinière. Evander, a coach's selection out of Portland. Ryan Gauld, a coach's selection out of Vancouver. Hector Herrera, Ache, a commissioner's pick from the Houston Dynamo. Robin Lod, coach's selection for Minnesota United. Hani Mukhtar, coach's selection from Nashville. Driver was a commissioner's pick, Darlington Nagbe for Columbus Crew. Ricky Puig voted in. Defenders, Jordi Alba voted in. Rudy Camacho, Wilfred Nancy picked him. Justin Glad from RSL voted in. Aaron Herrera voted in from DC United, All-Star debut. Thiago Martins, coach's selection by Wilfred Nancy from NYC. Steven Moreira, coach's selection, Columbus Crew. Luca Orejano, coach's selection, FC Cincinnati. Miles voted in. Keegan Rosenberry, a coach's selection. And your 3 keepers, Berkey, who was a coach's selection. Hugo Lloris, a coach's selection. And Martin Peiss, who was voted in from FC Dallas. So that's your roster. I see some holes, and I raise my eyebrow to a few of these. Specifically, I would go in net and why Christian Kalina was not selected over one of the, Berkey as an example, considering what we were discussing about St. Louis City SC having given up 1.8 let's see, 15 over 20, 1.75 goals per match so far this season, where Christian Kalina has a team that is in 6th and has given up the sum total of 21 goals in 21 matches. So for me, the glaring omission, if you want to go into that category, for me, it's Christian Kalina for keeper as opposed to, say, a Roman Berkey. Keegan Rosenberry for me is another one in there. But once again, it's a coach's selection, but for me, I think Kalina is the one that is there. And that is my loud beacon from the lighthouse of MLS All-Star selection.
When is the MLS All-Star game?
That is the 24th, sir, 22 days from now.
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, look, we got Copa America going on. You know, do you think Messi's going to be there for the All-Star game?
Let's see. If Copa, when is Copa America end, and one of the dates? It'd be nice if. Oh, I don't know.
Let me go ahead and be a spoiler here. It ain't happening. He ain't going to be there.
Or if he is, he's just going to wave at people.
They may fly him in. He does the smile and wave, and then he goes home and he goes shopping at Publix in Miami. Like that. No, I don't care who you include. Like anybody who was on the U.S. roster, right, except for Miles Robinson, because he really didn't do anything except train. You know, it doesn't matter. This is the most ignorant MLS All-Star game that I can remember, just because of the timing. Nothing else, just the timing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have Liga MX. Did anyone watch Mexico in this tournament? Is there anyone on that Mexican roster you're like, ooh, I can't wait to see them? No, because they're not good. Players who are, who are on the U.S. roster.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are they going to be there? No. What about players who are European based, right? That maybe are just getting out of the Euros. Are they going to be there? No. You think they're going to leave any of these tournaments and go suit up for a meaningless game? No. Okay, great. Awesome. If I have nothing else going on on that particular day, I may tune in and watch it just because I have literally nothing else going on.
Are we getting close to the Olympics at that point too?
Yeah, I want the Olympics. That's what I want to watch. Give me the Olympics. I don't. The timing of this game is so buffoonish. It really is. This may be the one time if there weren't and I get they can't because the ad dollars are already committed.
Right.
But just to be like, we're not doing it right now. We're not doing the game this year because Copa, Euros, Olympics. We're not doing it.
But
there's no but. We're not doing it. That's what you should do. The ad dollars are already committed, so you can't. But that's what you should do. Okay, we're going on to our C list. Yay! Exciting.
Oh wow.
I think the All-Star game, it's a very American thing, so we have to do it, but it's so stupid. And we've already discussed this. That's like one of the greatest episodes, I think. And was it SOT we did it? The how we fix.
Oh no, it was a straight up SDH episode.
SDH episode. Yeah, we need to run that back because that's how we do it.
Yeah, I mean, literally, during the holidays, I will say this: when we do the holiday rundowns, the fixing of the All-Star game episode year 1 and then year 2 when we did the follow-up, because we've actually done 2 fixes of the All-Star game, but year 1's fix of the All-Star game by far is one of our most popular episodes.
I mean, it's
shocking no one,
because I don't want to get back into we bring in European club X to play.
No, you need to play. Whoa, I stopped myself in mid-sentence. You need to have a match against your own players.
Right. So
you can imagine where I was about to go with my sentence before I stopped it.
Right. Look, you need to go ahead and just have East versus West, something like that.
Absolutely.
We've already ironed it out.
Yeah.
Go listen to the episode again.
Yeah.
But at least, what's attractive about this game? Like, there's nothing attractive about it.
Well, I will say what is attractive personally is the stuff that happens before the match itself. You have the unified game the day before.
That's great.
You have the skills challenge with the next pro players. That's a part of this. The MLS Next All-Star game that they have. The MLS Next players, the younger talent. Okay. All of the stuff that leads up to it. If you're not a fan of the All-Star game itself, I would find ways to watch the MLS Next showcase and the unified game and the skills challenge.
Okay. That's fine.
Those are in the days that are lead up to, because the unified game is at Historic Crew Stadium the day before, and Atlanta United has been at the forefront of unified squads in all of U.S. soccer, and so I understand that there is a vested interest, shall we say, in the unified activity. I think Marty Jellamy, the head coach of Atlanta United Unified, is going to be one of the coaches, I think, in Columbus. But vested interest in all of the stuff that happens before the All-Star game in and of itself. So as a part of All-Star Week, I would recommend watching some of the other things as well. We haven't even gotten to talk about the Euros yet. We haven't talked about the Euros today.
We have not. Italy. Look, what did I say before the Euros started? My most impressive and disappointing team would be Italy. So
you're not wrong.
Yeah. So the Dutch would be disappointing. Okay. Yeah. Said that Belgium, the golden fraud, that was proven correct.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Turkey would be better.
Yeah, they play Austria today. They are an underdog at a plus 343 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal.
If they get past Austria, all bets are off. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
They got to get past Austria. And Austria is looking really good.
Yeah, they're a minus 105. Netherlands at noon taking on Romania at a minus 222. Romania is a plus 684 in the composite. Yesterday, Cristiano Ronaldo cried.
You could see the pressure. I was going to make a ton of jokes about this, but really you can see the pressure that guy's under, because Messi's his legacy is secured no matter what.
Yeah.
His legacy is secured. He won his Federations championship, right? He won Copa America. He's won the World Cup. Champions Leagues are there. His legacy is secure.
Mm-hmm.
Ronaldo knows his legacy is not secure.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked for a moment that he was going to be the cause of cementing that.
Him or Nicola Pepe with that gift at the back.
Well, yeah. But it looked like Ronaldo thought for a moment, he's not stupid, despite what people may think. But you could see on his face, this is going to get replayed for infinity.
Mm-hmm.
If we lose, this is going to be, my legacy is this right here, this moment. So you can just see the weight he's putting on himself.
Mm-hmm.
Diogo Costa, incredible.
Oh boy.
That man allowed Ronaldo's legacy to have another day.
Oh, he better have been bought a couple of beers by Cristiano Ronaldo.
It's gonna be like triple distilled Alpine water.
Yeah, really.
That's what Ronaldo.
This is better for you. Do not drink the beer.
Yeah, no alcohol. Just triple distilled.
You look like me.
Yeah, water from the top of the Alps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what that's gonna be. So you can see the pressure, man. It's real.
And that was Woo. I mean, that went all day yesterday, and it was a fun watch. I know that there was a lot of hate watching that was going on yesterday with Portugal.
Yeah, sure.
And
they're an insufferable team. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
Absolutely insufferable team. But yeah.
And France beat Belgium, by the way, 1-0. That was the other one that happened yesterday. So the matches after today, they don't go until July 5th. Spain, Germany, Portugal, France, England, Switzerland, and then the two winners from today. That's what your Euro is looking like as they get down to the final 8. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we go. This is the end of group play in the Copa tonight. So keep an eye on that. Big FOX has Austria and Turkey at 3 o'clock. FS1 has Romania and Netherlands at noon. FS1 also has Brazil and Colombia at 9 o'clock. That one's a battle of heavyweights. I'm looking forward to that one.
Or you can subscribe to VIX and get all of it.
True. And if you do not have a subscription to VIX, if you have certain cell phone providers, they can give you subscriptions either free if you upgrade a plan or if you add another line, or you can pay like $6 a month through your provider if you don't already have it. And I would recommend it. Nick is doing that right now. And Nick, I think, is a walking example of it. Let's see. FS2 has Costa Rica, Paraguay. That one is at 9 o'clock. 2 to NA has Brazil and Colombia at 9. Unimas has Costa Rica, Paraguay at 9. Remember, the Copa America simultaneous kicks at 9 Eastern. Univision has Brazil and Colombia. Paramount Plus has your Argentine Primera. Colón Racing Club at 4. Boca Juniors and Sarmiento at 8:30. VIX, as Nick said, noon, 3, 9, and 9 has everything going on in the activities in the tournaments that are going on today. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we get out of here, and any other final thoughts from Nick. And it was good to have Nick here for the majority of the show. Don't get to hear Nick enough. Anthony Gordon turned by interest from Liverpool. Newcastle insists he will not be sold. Liverpool remain interested in Gordon. Could make another move to sign him in the summer. Manchester United have offered Matthijs de Ligt a 5-year deal as they continue transfer talks with Bayern. They would make another move for Jared Branthwaite if Everton dropped their asking price. Everton under no financial pressure to sell. Chelsea want to sign Athletic Bilbao's winger Nico Williams, but he would prefer a move to Barca. Galatasaray forward Wilfried Zaha keen to return to the Premier League. West Ham, Wolves, and Crystal Palace interested. And that's from the other 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. A Saudi Pro League club is in talks with Newcastle over a deal for Miguel Almiron, so keep an eye on that. And also follow Keith Downey, the Newcastle embed for Sky. Arsenal have activated the option to sign David Raya from Brentford on a permanent after a loan spell. 4-letter paper. The other 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Liverpool and AC Milan interested in signing Adrian Rabiot following the expiry of his contract at Juve. That's what I thought your response would be. Sevilla set to sign Arsenal midfielder Alfred Sambi Lokanga on a season-long loan. Southampton ready to make a £20 million bid for Celtics midfielder Matt O'Reilly. Brighton, Brentford, Everton, Southampton interested in Millwall's 18-year-old midfielder Josh Stevenson. Blank you on Millwall. Newcastle determined to keep Alexander Isak amid reports linking him to move to Arsenal or Chelsea. Manchester City have beaten Arsenal to Chelsea 16-year-old English midfielder Ryan McAdoo. Forest expected to offload Lewis O'Brien this summer. Sheffield United, Preston North End, and Ipswich interested. Burnley goalkeeper Aro Muric set to leave the club this summer, with a number of Premier League clubs interested in the Kosovo International. That is the 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Last thoughts, Nick Alifi, on a very busy and insightful Tuesday.
So I'm not sure I'm going to be here for tomorrow's show. So as someone who, and this is 100% truth, was rated by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms as a certified fireworks and pyrotechnics specialist.
There you go.
Do not be stupid with your fireworks on Thursday. Okay. Use the longer lighter. Okay. The longer ones, like the ones for like your fireplace and whatnot. Use that and not a cigarette lighter.
Yeah.
To light your fireworks. Not all wicks are made equally. Some of them are super fast and will blow up before you have a chance to pull your lighter back. Also, whistling moon travelers, a lot of your plastic tipped fireworks with report. Report is where it pops.
Mm-hmm.
All of those can be waterproof. So just because it goes in the water doesn't mean it stops. It can go underwater like a torpedo and then still pop.
Yep.
So, be very careful with those. Roman candles, they will burn the living piss out of your legs. So if you try to light it and run and knock it over, you are essentially launching a cavalcade of extraordinarily hot material toward your friends and loved ones. Wow. So please make sure that you are super safe with your fireworks. Hydrate the proper way. Don't do crash hydration. It's stupid. No. It dehydrates you and it can put you in the hospital.
Don't do that.
Nuance is important.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not capable of having nuanced conversations about something, you should probably just stay out of it. That's just my 2 cents on the matter.
That's why we have it here.
And there's no right way to rebuild a national team. So you have to choose your own adventure and do it well. But it probably helps if you remove the manager. Okay. That's it. That's all I got, John.
All right. So thanks to this is where we do the news to review ending. Thanks to Abby. Thanks to Tom. Thanks to Bam. Thanks to Wiley. Thanks to Brandon. Let's see. Thanks to Pars. I'm trying to see who joined us this morning on the Twitch pitch. Thanks to Katie Weaver. Let's see. Thanks to David. Let's see. Who else did I? Let's see. Did I say Abby? Well, I am now. Thanks to Abby for coming in this morning, and thanks to Hutch. And thanks to all of you. And Tom always reminds us, don't Jason P. or Paul yourself. That's what the holidays are for. That should be your reminder. Do not JPP yourself on the holiday coming up on Thursday. Tomorrow, once again, Tyler Pilgrim scarves in, spikes at 9:15. Nino Torres joining us from Gold TV at 10 to talk Copa and his beloved Peru. Nico Moreno joining us for the last half hour of the show talking MLS, and we'll see what Jason is up to and see if he can come in, say, in hour number 1 and talk about Atlanta United as we go. So for Nick, for Jarrett, for Campbell Chapman, the head coach at Decatur FC, I'm just John. Thanks for dropping by. And we'll be back at it again in a little less than 22 hours. So mucho plati, all play it safe. And since it is the end of the show, that means I have to put up a banner and whistle us to a close.